Hey, what's up, you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring a quick movie review. This time we're going to be talking about Hatchet II. Yeah. So I just watched this one last night. I did a review on the first movie. You guys can go search that on my channel if you want to hear my thoughts on that one. But I did like the first Hatchet, I guess. It's definitely one that had some things to be liked about it. Because the Hatchet series isn't like a horror series you're supposed to take like overly 100% seriously or anything. And I think the first Hatchet movie played on that kind of well for the most part. It did have a couple likable characters, the gore purposely over the top. It was still entertaining, and there were some still some tense moments and sequences here and there. Of course, with Kane Hodder continuing to play Victor Crowley. I didn't love the first movie, though, but it's one I didn't really mind. But the second movie, on the other hand, again, it's kind of hard to say a movie's bad when they're not trying to make it something you're supposed to take that seriously. But this one is probably a little bit worse than the first one, I think. And I was hoping it'd be the other way around, honestly. But unfortunately, I didn't really like Hatchet II that much. It did have a couple things that I almost liked about it. But other than that, I'm just gonna say this wasn't that good. I didn't enjoy it that much. The gore's still there. More and more gallons of blood are used than the first one, and it's really violent. Adam Green, he directed and wrote this one again, and I know it was held up by the MPAA and stuff like that. For its violence and such. There's an R-rated cut, which cut out over 2 minutes of violent footage or something like that. But even more so in the first one, the violence that is in this one looks cheesier, and it's not meant to be taken seriously, but this looks almost too fake at certain times. I get that they're not going for a dead serious tone, but at the same time you want to buy into what you're watching. At least I think you don't want it to be a complete 100% joke. I don't think, but this one kind of falls into that. And then also the characters aren't really as memorable in this one. The main male lead in the first movie I found to be kind of likable, and there's also the funny black guy, but there's no one really that funny in this one. The one credit I can give this movie, though, is the inclusion of Danielle Harris, of course, Scream Queen legend. And, she's an actress I do like quite a bit. I even liked her in the Rob Zombie Halloween movies. I liked her as a kid in the original Halloween 4 and 5. And I definitely want to watch more of her stuff. I do like her quite a bit. She seems to be a nice person in real life. I haven't had the pleasure to meet her, but nonetheless, I've heard nothing but good things about her, really. And she takes over the lead role of Tamara in this movie. Of course, she returns to the swamp in order to find her father and brother's bodies and retrieve them, but the real reason is also to exact vengeance on Victor Crowley. And of course, we see the return of Tony Todd's character, Reverend Zombie, and he sort of leads her into there. We find out more about the Victor Crowley legend. I did sort of like that, how Tony Todd's character seen Victor as what he is. He's a repeater, reliving the same night, same tragic night of his death over and over, and he's stuck in that state of mind, which I think can sort of apply to him and also makes sense for characters like Jason Voorhees as well. And so Tony Todd, he rounds up a bunch of hunters, and these guys are supposed to go out. They're supposed to find the boat. The boat to where the last guy left it. Where he crashed into the swamp and stuff. And they're also supposed to be a backup against Victor Crowley. But it turns out to be a setup because Reverend Zombie wants to put an end to the Victor Crowley curse. Because supposedly Tamara's Uncle Bob and this hunter guy here were the other two kids who lit the cabin on fire the night Victor Crowley died. So he believes if those two are killed, then that'll put an end to it. But what's what's a little bit weird about the hunters thing. At first, it was a good call because, yeah, okay, now we have guys out here who can, possibly, kind of defend themselves a little bit instead of just like tourists and stuff, right? And they're like, okay, we're recruiting these guys because they know every inch of the swamp. But almost as soon as they get into the swamp, they don't know where the fuck they are. They don't know how the fuck to get back to the boat unless they just keep walking a straight line. So I don't know what happened there with the writing, but so that's a little bit odd, I'd say. Like I said, the characters in this, there are some likable characters in the first one, and the humor was on point. But in this one, the characters just don't really click with me. I like seeing Danielle Harris in it, but this probably definitely isn't one of like her best performances to go by for sure. Although I will say there is a somewhat fairly well acted scene involving her and Tony Todd's character, where she sort of tells him about what happened to her parents, and just Danielle Harris gave as good a performance as she could have in this, I think, and that scene was actually a fairly good one. But other than that, again, I know it's not a movie that's supposed to be like taken too seriously with its acting and stuff like that, but other than that, it was just wood, and the characters weren't nearly as likable as they were in the first one. And although the inclusion of Danielle Harris bumps it up a notch, she just doesn't get to do much, given the script and everything like that. And then the story, they do try to add like this whole cheating affair backstory. With Thomas Crowley, played by Kane Hodder himself, who also plays, Victor Crowley in the movie under all the makeup. We find out that he sort of had an affair with this other woman while his wife was dying of cancer, and then Victor Crowley was born between him and the girl he had an affair with, and the wife who was dying of cancer put like a curse on him or something like that. And that's kind of how it started, I guess, but that gets a little bit muddled, and I thought it was just sort of like crammed in there. I don't think it really needed to be in there. It doesn't really serve the story going forward. I saw it sort of made it a little bit messier. I just would have preferred them keeping the tragic night of the father with a broken heart losing his son who he tried to look after. I think that keeping it the way it was in the first one might have worked a little bit better. Kane Hodder, he gives a fine performance, I guess. Again, it's a movie where a lot of the guys are overacting and such. But he's fine in this one, and of course he continues to do fine stunt work for what he is with Victor Crowley and such. And the ending to this one, I will say, is pretty awesome though. Once pretty much everyone else is killed, along with Tony Todd's character, Danielle Harris manages to trick Tony Todd by saying, it's not really her Uncle Bob, it's her father's friend, because her Uncle Bob died when she was much younger. So the curse wasn't lifted, and Tony Todd is then literally torn in half by Victor Crowley. And then Danielle Harris, Tamara manages to get the jump on Victor Crowley and literally just bashes his head and face in. I think it might have been with a hatchet, yeah. And then she just bashes it to a pulp. And she sees the finger twitch, and I thought they were going to cut to the credits right there. But she sees it twitch, and then she comes back and just blasts him in the head with a shotgun, I think it is. So that was cool, And the gore in that scene actually looked, fairly good. Like I said, some of the effects in this do look a little bit cheesier than the first one for some reason. But I still do appreciate that they use all practical effects. It's definitely a good thing to see, on the base of it anyway. But yeah. So overall, Hatchet 2, while there were some things I like about it, like I said, with Danielle Harris, although a limited Danielle Harris, Tony Todd given more of a role is also nice, but the way they just turned him into the bad guy and they added the whole like affair background and stuff, it just didn't really work. And just the characters weren't as memorable or as likable. So unfortunately, I'll just have to I think I gave the first Hatchet like a C- or something. I might give that one like still give that one like a D+, C-, and I'll give Hatchet 2 about a D+, I think. Let me know what you guys thought about Hatchet 2. I probably will end up buying and watching Hatchet 3 for some reason, mainly because I just want to see how Danielle Harris's character plays out. But it's unfortunate that it wasn't as entertaining as it could have been given what it had. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.